I want to see hands of everyone that had bird. I'll you there for a while. I didn't believe it was real. I thought it was fake bird. So good afternoon and welcome to the December 4th meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Birmingham. I'm Ann Flory and I'm delighted to be standing in for President Scott today. So if everyone, if you can, depending on how many flies of bird please stand as I invite Fernando Valentin to the podium to offer the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Good afternoon. I actually wrote this one down this time. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you foremost for all that you do and all that you are. Thank you for your mercy, your blessings that are too numerous to count. Grant us peace that only comes from having a personal relationship with you. Humble our prideful hearts that we may remember to lead lives of servitude, putting others before ourselves. Bringing our communities and our nation closer together, let us realize that the differences and diversity among us are the strength to persevere when tragedy and divisiveness abound. Lord God, bless this food, those that have prepared it. May we not forget the reason this season is to celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. Feliz Navidad, en nombre de Jesús. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Fernando, for that communication. I'd now like to invite Club Secretary J.W. Carpenter to come up for announcements and introductions of guests. J.W.
Thank you, Ann. It's good that we opened the bar. Welcome you back as president. Looking forward to the weekly drink specials. Yeah, so apparently there's a clicker. I didn't really, no one told me there was a clicker until December, but now there's a clicker, so I don't have to annoy you in the back and say move the slide along. First announcement, Kiwanis Club of Birmingham Business Hall of Fame. I've talked about this for the last couple of weeks. Y'all know what it is. Terry and Lee have done a terrific job the last couple of years with the evening portion of this. The link is right there, right on our website if you want to nominate someone. We definitely want a big batch of diverse nominees to make sure we have some great selections as we have every single year. So please go and nominate some folks. All right, this Thursday, 6 p.m., guys, 6 to 9. Let your hair down. It's business casual, so don't let it down that much. But please do come to the party. It should be a lot of fun. Carol Hines was sharing with me that she's got some tips from Joan Crawford about how to really have a good party. So please go see her if you're concerned about your performance on Thursday night. But we'd love to have you there. Bring some guests, bring some family. Should be a lot of fun. And there'll be Ann's bringing the bourbon. So Tom Lankin has just asked us to support the Family Promise of Birmingham. So from now until Christmas Eve, for those of us that really want to save it to the last minute, come on for the annual gift wrap booth. It's sponsored by the National Bank of Commerce. All the information you need is right up there. And come over to Brookwood Village, get your gifts wrapped, save some time. Try to do it before the 24th, but that's really up to you. And those are all of our announcements. Again, if there's anything you would like me to announce or share, I'm more than happy to do it. Just a couple of things. Today is the third day of Hanukkah. So for all of us in the room who are celebrating Hanukkah, for your friends and family who are celebrating Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah from me and from everyone at the Kiwanis Club. And last, and this is more of a point of personal privilege, yesterday we lost a guy named Giles Perkins. And there are a lot of folks in this room that know Giles and know the good work he's done all over this state and all over this community, Railroad Park being one of the most prominent among them. And I just want to say a word of condolences to his family and his friends for all of the great work that Giles did. I know he meant a tremendous amount to me as a young professional, and I am one of many. So just condolences to Giles and his family. It's a real loss for this state, a real loss just for the broader world. And now we will introduce guests. So, Mr. Waddy has a couple of guests. The priest, where are you?
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce two of my colleagues from the JCCEO team who head up our Hispanic and Latino initiative, Christina Murillo and Antoinetta Cristobal.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Will Baker has a guest.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome my wife, Susanna Baker.
Larry Thornton has a guest.
Yes, I have with me today Quentin Riggins, who is Senior Vice President of Corporate and Governmental Affairs with Alamo Power.
And Taylor Peak and Meredith Calhoun have a guest. I'm going to give it to Taylor. You have two guests.
And Laura with
Great, thank you. And then I think this is on my bill, but it's Isabel's guest. So Isabel, I'll let you introduce your guest.
I'd like to introduce Terry Williams-Glass, the counselor here in Birmingham.
Great. Whitney Wright has a guest.
Like actually, my friend Melanie Baker, she's Director of Operations for Economic Development for the city.
Terrific. Rich Swagler has a guest.
My guest is John Davies, a colleague at Regents who serves on the board.
Judge Sparks has a guest.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to introduce you to Nigel Roberts, who served as the Director of the Community Development Department of the City of Birmingham.
Are there any other guests in the crowd today? Let's give a warm welcome to all of our guests. I turn it back over to Anna.
Let's see now. Sorry, I'm a little rusty, guys. I haven't done this in a long time. I want to introduce the head table now. And I'm going to go to my left, your right, Jay Robertson. Oh no, sorry, Jerry Ann. They have you out of order. Jerry Ann Fagan. Jerry Ann, can you stand? Yes. That really was not my fault. Gail. I'm not going to own that. Jerry Ann has a new job at UAB doing in-house consulting, so she used to do it external, now she does it in-house. Leadership coaching and training, team development, facilitation. She's been a Kiwanian since 2016. Next is Jay Robertson. He served on Birmingham City Council and is well known in sports circles. Is currently the VP of Community Relations at the Birmingham Iron. All right, been a Kiwanian since 2010. Next is Jennifer Egby, who is an attorney and partner at Huey Turner Youth and Stewart. Has been a Kiwanian since 2017. Next is J.W., the club secretary. He is the executive director of the Birmingham Education Foundation and has been a Kiwanian since 2013. Oh, they were all supposed to remain standing. All right, so. Sorry.
We're good.
All right, on the right is Fernando Valentin, who gave me an invitation. Thank you again. Who's the president and CEO of the Trinity Design Group, which is an auto packaging company. So he's a supplier to the automotive industry, and Kiwanian since 2012. And finally, Meredith Calhoun, who is a current member of the board of directors, is the co-founder of Practice Works, which is a co-working community for wellness practitioners, which is opening in March of 2019. She's been a Kiwanian since 2017, and she has the honor of introducing our speaker. But before we get to that, I'm going to ask you to recognize the head table.
Good afternoon. So this is fun, having him with us today. So JW, I tried to find an adorable singing toddler I could bring with me today. Somebody seen that? And I thought it would improve my likability, but alas, no takers. So it's just me and you. I'm really excited to introduce our speaker today. Really honored. Isabel is a good friend and someone I admire very much. She's very inspirational to me. She's sort of, she's that person to me that's everywhere at once. Well, I'll put it another way. She's a person who's uber connected and impacts this wide swath, bridging community and business, and touching so many lives in a very unassuming yet powerful way. I'm sure all of you have people like that in your life and know people like that. Isabel is that person for me. Isabel and I met in 2006. She was taking a then 7-year-old nonprofit organization, and leaping from that very comfortable, free space situation in the basement of the church in Milan to the free market of lease space. And so she hired me to represent her in that transaction. And very shortly after moving in, I'm going to call it 6 months, maybe it was 8, she calls me up. And this is when a client would say, "We're so happy, we're finally settled, this is awesome." And she says, "We've run out of space, and there's this building down the street I want to look at to buy." Isabel, come on, just signed a 5-year lease. But this is just a small illustration of sort of how Isabel works, because HiCA grew and grew in place as long as it could there, right? It would take time to find a building. But in 2015, the opportunity was there, and it was because of Isabel's vision and fortitude that she was able to take advantage of that and buy a new building for HiCA. She's patient, Isabel, but she dreams big. And it turns out that her dreams tend to come to life. As a social worker in the late 90s, Isabel saw a gap in services here in Birmingham. She saw there was a growing Latino community. It was lacking guidance and support, and so she set about dreaming big and formed the organization to address those needs, HiCA. And get this, next year HiCA will be 20 years old. So I know we all have our own experiences with nonprofits here in Birmingham. There are many, and we all have a lot to be proud of and our philanthropic support. But I'll tell you, as a longtime board member and now the chair of her board, there are not many that have more of an impact than Isabel Rubio and HiCA. Isabel's vision is always rooted in empowerment. I've heard her say more than once, she's not here to create or perpetuate dependence on a system. People have to be empowered to participate in their own success. Isabel is a servant leader at heart. She's worked tirelessly locally and on a national level to create those opportunities. She serves on several boards locally, bridging the gap between business and community, but also on a national level, giving a voice for Alabama in these very important discussions on policy and immigration. She's dreaming big right now of how HiCA will participate in economic and workforce development here in Birmingham and in Alabama at large. So you can see it's a lot. There's not really many places that she doesn't touch in our community. This is what she's been doing on a local and state level. Isabel's a native of Mississippi and a second-generation Mexican-American. As she puts it, she immigrated from Mississippi. She was born in the mid-60s, greatly influenced by the change brought to Mississippi by the struggle for civil rights. She earned her first degree in history from the University of Southern Mississippi, and later her degree in social work from UAB. She worked as a social worker for the next 8 years in Birmingham before founding HiCA in 1999. Isabel is an equestrian. She loves her horse Crown. She loves art. She loves gardening, hanging out with her daughters Sophia and Amanda, her historic home in Glen Iris, and sharing that home with visitors to Birmingham and of course her cats. There's more than one, less than 5. And yes, she may show up from time to time with blue and purple hair. It can happen. So her awards and accomplishments are many. You can change the slide. Those are also behind me. But most recently, she shared a stage with Apple CEO Tim Cook when she accepted the Southern Christian Leadership Conference Keeper of the Dream Civil Rights Award. She's also a nationally recognized public speaker on the issue of immigrants in the South. So no matter which side of the aisle you're on, I believe we all recognize the humanity around us. When we see hardworking, contributing members of our community, no matter their origin, we want to support them. We want to encourage their success. We want to create paths forward so they can thrive in Birmingham. We want to empower them. And that's exactly what Isabel gets up every morning ready to do. So please join me in welcoming my dear friend and a force of compassion and empowerment in Birmingham, Isabel Rubio.
Well, Meredith, thank you. I'm humbled. Gosh, thank you for your great service and leadership on our board. And Jay, thank you for the invitation to be here with all you awesome Kiwanis. I see a couple of other HiCA board members here, John Davies from Regions, and Houston, I saw you just a minute ago. I don't know where you went, but anyway, there you are. Hey. It's always awesome to be here with the biggest Kiwanis club in the world, right here in Birmingham, Alabama, to talk a little bit with you guys about what's going on in our world with Latinos in Alabama. Meredith sort of gave you a brief overview of the organization. We will be 20 next year in June. That's when we celebrate our actual anniversary. And when we think about the trajectory that we've taken over those 20 years, when we started out, I did have a vision of building this organization that would be a go-to place for the immigrant Latino community to come and get needs met on a wide variety of issues. And we sort of realized that dream in about 2015-16, and have really been thinking as an organization and as a board, where are we going now? When we think about that, we look at how our work has shifted and changed over the last almost 20 years, and the needs that the community had when we first began to do this work. Some of those needs are still there, but as a community matures, the community settles and begins to have different needs, and so we have had to keep up, and our program has grown and expanded. I think that, yes, there's a slide behind me. We can go to the next slide. So as we, I have, there's the clicker. How does the clicker work? Oh, okay. All right, so, okay. I'm a little bit technology challenged. At any rate, so, while we started as more of kind of in a social service frame, we are seeing ourselves move toward a real community development and advocacy frame. And so these days, while we certainly help families stay strong and, healthy and focus on wellness, we have pushed that continuum out and do things like help people open small businesses. We do our work in 3 pillars, really sort of building on a shared prosperity is one, welcoming an inclusive society, and full civic engagement. So when we think about those 3 pillars under building our shared prosperity, we're thinking about opening businesses, doing micro-lending, home ownership, and providing technical assistance around all of that stuff. Just this year, well, by the time the year ends, we will have opened close to 40 small businesses. Those businesses provide jobs and really begin to change the financial capability for families, provide close to 50 to 60 jobs for individuals in our area, and change the financial future for those families that are opening those businesses. In January, we are looking at beginning to do micro-lending. We are doing homeownership counseling and providing comprehensive technical assistance. We also, in our welcoming and inclusive society, look at how we, as I mentioned, sort of make sure that families have everything that they need and are connected, but in a way that they are leading that process. Because as Meredith mentioned, we're not here to do the work. I mean, folks really have such strength and determination that brings them to seek a new life in this country that we build on that and help them make sure that they're connected. To then making sure that people are gaining access to full civic engagement through citizenship and naturalization, doing leadership development, and all of those sorts of things. Okay, next slide. So when we talk about who are Latinos in Alabama, I've been saying, y'all, that there are about 200,000 Latinos in Alabama for about 15 years. And so we know that that number is probably wrong. We're just about to have a new census in 2020, and this is a really, we've been saying since I started this work right before the 2000 census, it's so critical that we count Latinos in all hard to count populations because of everything that it means for our state. But every census, we fall short of that. We know the number of Latinos in Alabama is much higher than 200,000. Nonetheless, we know that we've had one of the biggest increases in population in the whole country, with our population increasing by almost 160% from 2000 to 2010-11. In our area, we had an even bigger percent increase than that. We say by the numbers that Alabama has 4% Hispanics, but there again, I think that we are looking at a much larger population. And one of the things that is important to remember, I think we've sort of gotten away from this historically a lot, but what's happened across the South, or what's happened here in Alabama has happened across the whole Southeast. In the mid-90s, we had such a strong economy in the South, in our nation. There was a lot of construction going on, particularly in Atlanta, preparing for the Olympics. And I heard the then Consul General from Mexico telling about a conversation that he had with then Immigration and Naturalization Services, that they had basically sort of called a truce and said, we're turning our back because Atlanta needed to build up for the Olympics. And so that really was a big draw for a lot of Latinos to come here. We're coming to places like Birmingham, like Charlotte, like Little Rock, Arkansas, for the first time, and not going to places like Los Angeles or Chicago or other places like that. At any rate, just to sort of point this, to put a pin in this, we're working really hard to make sure that we get a very accurate count for the 2020 census, because that's going to have a really big impact, of course, on the dollars that our state gets from the federal government. But also, we've just got to sort of see who our state is. Additionally, our state continues to see Latinos coming primarily from Mexico, even though we have had this big caravan of immigrants that are coming up from El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Most of the folks that we see on a daily basis in our office are people who have come from Mexico. We are still seeing folks in our office that have never been there before. We're still seeing folks in our office who have not lived in Birmingham for very long. And as it relates to youth in our community who are eligible for DACA, which is Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, we have got about 4,000 of those youth in our state. And many of them have gotten the DACA benefit, but there's still many who haven't been able to get that. And unfortunately, because of the changing policies, that's no longer an option. Does everybody know what DACA is? Is there anybody who doesn't know what DACA is? Anybody willing to admit? Okay, I saw a hand back there. So Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals is a policy that was implemented through executive order by President Obama in June of 2012. And President Obama decided to do that somewhat reluctantly because there had been no movement on the DREAM Act, which was a piece of legislation that, if enacted, would allow young children brought to this country as children to be able to go to college, to go to work, to serve in the armed forces, and after doing so with a good record and good grades and so forth, would give them a pathway to citizenship. So we could never get that passed. So instead, President Obama said, we're going to give these kids deferred action, which basically means we're going to protect them from any deportation and give them the opportunity to go to school. They can't serve in the military, but they can go to school, they can go to work, they get a social security number so that they can drive the car. And this is a status that does not provide a pathway for citizenship. It's available only for 2 years at a time. It has to be renewed every 2 years. So in the fall of 2017, under the new administration, maybe some of you remember that was something that became very questionable. and we thought was in jeopardy. And the courts ruled that it couldn't be blocked, it couldn't be rescinded, but still at this moment, we can't take any new applications for kids. So kids who were aging into the program or kids who didn't file at the beginning of the program are out of luck. And the bad thing about that is that I get calls all the time in my office about, we're looking for a bilingual teacher, we're looking for any kind of bilingual employee, you name it. And we have these kids who want to go to school to become nurses, social workers, teachers, you name it, doctors, engineers. And we're not able to sort of do 1 + 1 = 2 in this situation, unfortunately. But nonetheless, those who do have DACA, we've got some great young folks who are becoming teachers, nurses, social workers, lawyers. So we'll take what we can get at this moment, but we still keep fighting for that. Alrighty, let's see here. So immigrant economic power in Alabama. In 2014, HiCA got a grant from an organization called the New American Economy, and that is a partnership, it's a pan-political organization that brings together mayors and business leaders who support sensible immigration reform that helps create jobs for Americans. I'm going to give you some information. Well, there's the website right there, and I encourage you guys to check it out because you'll see that many prominent politicians and mayors and so forth on either side support this work. But this group gave us this grant to study both Birmingham and Alabama. I'll give you the sources for those reports in the next slide. But in that report, we were able to find out that in Alabama, immigrants generate $2.7 billion in spending power. Of that, Hispanics generate $1.3 billion. I mean, I'm not sure what the total spending power of people is, but that seems like a pretty significant amount of money. And you can see the numbers there. We hear a lot that, well, Hispanics come here, immigrants come here, and they don't pay taxes. Well, we all know that in Alabama, you're going to pay taxes on anything that you buy. And aside from buying food, one of the first things folks buy when they come to Alabama is a car because they need to get around. But aside from that, every year at HiCA, because we are a bite-site, we help people file their federal income taxes. And each year, we have more people and more people that do that. We file close to 400 federal income tax returns a year. And so we contribute to the $2.52 million that folks are paying in state and local taxes, and as well as in the federal income taxes that folks are paying, and also contribute to Medicare and Social Security. But we are really excited about how immigrants are contributing to the business community in terms of the income folks are generating, which you see that in 2014 was almost $128 million. So for HiCA, as we begin to look forward for our next 20 years, well, I'm just going to take it like in a 3 to 5 year chunk, actually. Seems a little bit more manageable. But I think Meredith mentioned we're the only organization in Alabama that does this sort of work. I mean, we really stand in a spot that certainly advocacy is important to us, and we do advocacy in a wide variety of issues. But we feel like our space is best used when we help people become financially capable in their communities, and when we help look at how do we help folks become more contributing members of the community that they now belong to. And so that's why as we move forward, we feel like community development work, along with the civic engagement work, are really the two avenues that we are going to focus our work on. I mentioned that we have started close to 40 businesses this year. In the report that I mentioned, the New American Economy report, it states that in 2014 there were about 10,000 immigrants in Alabama who were self-employed in businesses that they had started, which is pretty incredible. one of my favorite stories that I'll share with you is that last year we opened for a guy a pizza parlor, which, okay, Mexicans like pizza too. He was from Mexico. We helped him open a pizza parlor down in Columbiana. And by the end of the year, he came and shared with us that he had revenues in his pizza parlor of over $300,000 and was ready to open another business. And we were just blown away by the success of his business. But it goes to show you, what that's doing. I mean, for the economy of a small town like Columbiana is just incredible. And how really important it is for us to think about the role of immigrant businesses in our state. Rick and John and other Regions folks, the beginning of Regions was founded by an immigrant family, so I mean, and we all remember Bruno's, immigrant business plays a really critical role in our economy here. For HiCA, as we look toward the future, we will be entering into the lending field in January. The board was a little scared about that, maybe, somewhat, but it's like, come on, we can do this. So one of the issues that our community has is that it's difficult to go to Regions or Wells Fargo or BBVA or any of the other financial institutions to make a $1,000 loan, especially if you don't have any credit or you might not have, a social security number. So we are looking at how we can make credit available to folks in alternative ways through, we're going to be doing affinity groups, which are similar to lending circles. And we are partnering with an organization in Philadelphia that will be shepherding us through this whole process. But in the process of doing this, we will be able to do the underwriting for the lending so that our, as we're making these loans to our customers, we will be reporting their credit payment history to a credit reporting company so that they are going to be building a credit history. So over time, they will be able to go to more traditional financial institutions to make those loans, which, if you have access to capital, whether it's to buy a house or a car, or even to make a loan for your citizenship process, all of these things can be life-changing for you. And when it comes to us, for the lending work that we're doing, it's not restricted to one simple area. It can be for your citizenship process. It can be for a small piece of equipment for your business, or it can be for a down payment on a house. Once we get to that point, and maybe you're going to buy a house that takes a down payment of more than $1,000. But at any rate, so along with that, we are also entering into the housing counseling, and we'll be entering into the homeownership space. As we know that right now in Alabama, immigrants hold about over $5.5 billion worth of the housing wealth, and a lot, there's over $24 million that they pay annually in rent. And so we would like to see folks move into the home ownership space, because we all know that so many of us hold our wealth in our homes. That's sort of the biggest asset that we have, and that in and of itself begins to change the course of people who are low income. That really begins to change the course of their family history, and also begins to change the course of neighborhoods. And so we're excited about the work that we're doing in all of those spaces, as it sort of all bundles up together in community development. When we began to do this work, it wasn't just about sort of connecting people with services, because that never really moves the needle or makes community stronger. But when you begin to put assets in the hands of community, you have an opportunity for them to accumulate assets and provide for kids to go to college. And the stories of immigrants from years past, and it's no different than today. We are excited as we look to the future to think about our partnerships with the city of Birmingham and so many other nonprofits across the community, when we think about working with think with the land bank that has great potential to connect with our community, with the many properties that are available. We think as we move forward about the potential to develop a small business incubator, much on the, sort of with the same concept of Innovation Depot. I see you smiling over there, Mike. But not so much with a tech focus. You know, our folks, our women, so we have women's groups, and we have these awesome, strong women who come together on Wednesdays and talk and make things, and they are interested, you know, as their kids get older, how can we use our skills to, you know, help support our families, to become more independent, and just to be more part of the community. And so we talk about the things that we want to do, and they're like, how can we help you do it, you know? So they're incredibly interested in micro businesses and forming a co-op where they maybe make food to sell in markets at Pepper Place. Maybe they can get a contract at Whole Foods. You know, to them and to me, I think that what they can do is limitless. You know, it's for us to create a space that we help them fill in with their dreams and aspirations. And I told them, I said, you know, like, when I come to talk to people like you about these ideas, they said, we'll come with you because this is something that we want to do. It's about empowerment and helping communities grow. But when we think about like an idea for a commercial kitchen or a business incubator, it's not just about food services. It could be a place for our business alliance to go and have meetings. It can be a place for people who need to meet clients, that sort of thing. And our commercial kitchen is also a great opportunity for people in the food truck business to go and rent space there. As we think about becoming a sustainable organization, we have to think about how do we generate revenue, how do we become sustainable as we work to help our own community become sustainable themselves. So that's a little bit of what we have coming up. All of this we continue to push forward in a climate that we continue to talk with both the city of Birmingham, the city of Homewood. Those are the two that we are working with the most around the concept of a welcoming city, which means that we look at all of the ways that a city works to make sure that barriers are removed for people to make it easier for them to do business with the city, for the city to be more inclusive. So I'm going to stop. I'll go to the next slide and say here are some things that I pulled up for you to read if you like. And I think JW, you can send this PowerPoint out to the group if they like. And I didn't include one that's called Unleashing Latino-Owned Business Potential. That's a report that was put out by the Aspen Institute. A friend of mine, Monica Lozano, chairs the board of the Latino part of the Aspen Institute. And this is an incredible report that I would recommend that you read because while small business on the whole might be going, you know, not so many American-born folks do it, the rise in Latino small business is doubling and tripling every year. So keep your eyes on us, folks. I think we have some time for questions. Yeah, a few. Anne's already in. By the way, we were Anne's first class in Leadership Birmingham. Can we say?
Yes.
And Meredith was the last one. We were the last. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Samuela.
So is Alabama a welcoming state socially and in other areas?
Well, we know that we've had some issues around Alabama being welcoming with HB 56, and we were able to pretty much take a lot of the teeth out of that. Some of the things that, so let me just say yes and no. When I talk about Alabama, when I'm outside of the state, I talk about our schizophrenia, because I mentioned to you that we open, 40 businesses a year, right? There are lots of places, there are lots of municipalities that will issue a business license to an immigrant that doesn't have Alabama ID. But there are many municipalities, the city of Birmingham is one, that won't. And technically in the HB 56 law, they said, you can't do business without an Alabama ID. Now, if you read the HB 56 law, which I just did last week, it really is the most restrictive thing, and basically supposed to cut off the legs of anybody that wants to do business anywhere in the state. And unfortunately, it makes it very difficult to do business. So, we gotta work this out. We've got to sort of get this answered once and for all across all our municipalities and all the states, because the funny thing is that you go to the courthouse across Lynn Park, and the courthouse will issue a business license for the county, and they'll give you your state business license, right? In the state that did HB 56. But you can't get a municipal license. And so it's really patchwork. And we know that we want to increase our tax base in all our communities through small business. So it's patchwork. I would ask for your help where you might be able to lend it in different places around that. Yes, David, and then, yes, sir. Chuck.
Let's role play for just a second. I have a 30-year-old husband and wife, arrived in Birmingham, Latino, and they have 2 children. And they don't speak English, and they don't have a driver's license. What does HiCA do to get them on the road to survival?
Okay, so they probably have already got a job and a place to live. I mean, there's nothing we can do about the driver's license issue.
Well, how do you teach, you help them sign up to learn to speak English? I mean, how do y'all practically help that kind of family that's arrived in Birmingham?
So people come to us with, for issues to get connected with sort of anything, but there are barriers when it's things like getting a driver's license, or people can't get public benefits if you're not here with presence or with authorization or a U.S. citizen. You can't get food stamps. So we make sure people are aware of what it means to live in this community, understand their responsibilities and their rights, make sure that they know where they can get health care that is charitable health care, or where they might have to pay something. Listen, our community doesn't mind paying for stuff. And we ask them to give us a donation when they come to see us, because if we ask you for a donation, we have to ask them for a donation too. It's just fair, right? We just sort of help them navigate. But I also need to let you know that we also don't invite people to come to this country without permission. That's not our issue. Once people are here, though, we're going to help them when they encounter barriers, to try and navigate those barriers so that they can live safely and in compliance as much as they are able with the rules and regulations. We want them to be educated about that. Does that help? And they have 2 children, so we help them get registered in school. And schools have to provide services to them because schools receive federal funds. And if there are issues around English language learning in the schools, we'll make sure that they're getting what they need if they're not. And we do a lot of advocacy work around that. As a matter of fact, we run the Alabama Language Access Project, which makes sure that where entities need to provide language access, pretty much all government organizations, that we're holding them accountable for that. Is that helpful? Chuck? Yes.
Yeah, my question is kind of related as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you do. I was going to ask what the most kind of common query is to HiCA from someone coming in outside, whether it's legal or how to start a business. 2-part question. The other part is, what's your staffing like? What are the caseloads like? Every nonprofit's going to work.
So in terms of what issues do we get, it can seriously be from my keys are locked in my car, and I can't speak English enough to call a locksmith, to really, really serious life-threatening issues. And so we sort of triage those and help with that. Funnily enough, we've got a really great relationship with law enforcement across many jurisdictions, and so that's helpful. In terms of staffing, we're a staff of 22 people that are full-time, and we don't have caseload, so to speak. We serve about 3,500 families a year. That translates into, and that's sort of through our Strong Families program, which sees the most traffic. That translates to about 38,000 to 40,000 touches of people, but then through the other programs, we, we're out in the community and do clinics and so forth, and so sometimes it's really hard to tell, but, we have a pretty broad reach, and we work between Blount, Jefferson, and Shelby counties, except when we don't, when we go outside of those counties for maybe specific clinics. Yeah. Sir, with the beautiful, is that my last question? Yes, sir, in the middle here. Yes, you.
The question I have is there's been more and more talk about merit-based immigration. So the thing that you're trying to accomplish, is that helping some of your clients achieve that? How would those things mesh together?
Well, we're not really talking about merit-based immigration at HiCA, but I know that that's kind of a national conversation. Right now, of course, we are, the system is based on family relationship. I think that that's a sticky question, and I think that, immigration historically has been based on family relationships, and so I think that that is a whole bigger question and a whole bigger conversation than we probably have time for today. I'm sorry to dodge you like that. Sorry the clock is running out on you like that. But we can have a whole nother luncheon and talk about immigration. But listen, before I go in, it's tamale time. You can go online at www.hispanicinterest.org and order your tamales today through December 10th, and pickup is on December 14th at HiCA. Gracias y feliz Navidad.
Thank you, Isabel, for everything you do. 20 years ago, I can't believe it's been that long, I actually sat on a committee at United Way, and Isabel came in to ask for a grant. They were obviously had not started and did not have, were not a United Way agency, but it was a community grant. And we had no idea what she was talking about, because she was the only person talking about those issues at that time. And she was so dynamic, and the committee had no idea what to do. And I said, look, I don't know what she's talking about, and I don't know what she does, but we just need to give her the money. But she's going to do something. So I think it's a great example of what even a small grant, I think that was a $5,000 grant at the time that I remember, and look what she's done with it. So let me mention a couple of things. JW talked about the December 6th event at the Birmingham Museum of Art. December the 11th, Taylor Peak and Nimrod Fraser will talk about their new business partnership, Coding Solutions. And on December the 18th, Commissioner Willis Howell of the United States Southern Territorial Commander of the Salvation Army will talk about the Salvation Army and what is going on with them. And a reminder, we will obviously not meet on December 25th or January the 1st due to the holidays. Tomorrow, all federal offices, just as a reminder, will be closed in memory of President George Bush. The country's doing something that rarely happens. We're burying a president, 41st president. And it's a time I think we can all come together in his memory. The priest, a little fact, you might have seen it on AL.com, but the priest who is officiating, Russ Levinson, is from Birmingham. He graduated from Outbrook High School, attended Birmingham Southern College, as did everyone, right, Dr. Brody? He was the associate rector at St. Luke's Church. So I think that's an interesting thing. Anyway, we are adjourned, and thank you very much for your attendance.